Very good afternoon to all of you. Now, the last class, what we had discussed about short-term cost. So, we started with production, and I have been telling you again and again that the production and cost goes hand in hand, isn't it? So, what we had discussed last class was about short-term, because you understand, I hope you understand basics. आप सब समझते हैं इस बात को कि कोई भी firm का existence, any firm which is in existence, it starts with the initiation period, isn't it? It starts with basics. So they start with, for example, buying the land, then installing the machine, then hiring people to work on that machine, and then designing of the product and the final product which is there and which can be launched in the market. So we had shared short term, and what is the characteristic of short term production function? Short term production function is about that there is one of the factors which is kept fixed. And similarly, in the short-term cost curve also. Okay, so when we talk about short-term average cost curve, we had shared that there's a U-shaped curve. Why short-term average cost is U-shaped? The short-term average cost curve is U-shaped because of the law of variable proportion. If you can recap, so we had shared that the short-term average cost curve will be like this, isn't it? So this is short-term average cost curve. And this is the output. So when you go for producing goods and services, you incur cost. And this cost here is going down. Why the short-term average cost curve goes down? It is because of this U-shaped curve is because of returns to factor. And what is returns to factor? We have shared it is the proportion between the two factors changes. What is fixed here? Capital is fixed and labor keeps on increasing. And the proportion between the two changes. And this results in what? Increasing returns to factor. Increasing returns to factor means marginal productivity aapki badhegi. And if the marginal productivity increases means your cost will go down. So your marginal cost will decrease. Respectively, your average cost will also decrease. So this short-term average cost is decreasing because of increasing returns to factor. Then here you have, it is increasing here because of the diminishing returns to factor. When you add more and more labor to the capital, what happens? Overutilization of the fixed factor, and then the marginal productivity starts decreasing. When the marginal productivity will decrease, marginal cost will increase, and respectively the average cost will also increase. So, ये जो upward है, short-term average cost curve, it is because of the diminishing returns to factor. So we have discussed short-term average cost curve. आपको याद रखना है ये U-shaped क्यों होती है? It is because of returns to factor. Increasing returns to factor, then you have diminishing returns to factor. Isn't it diminishing returns to factor? Negative returns में आप perform ही नहीं करोगे because you remember we had shared that a firm always opt for second stage of output, second stage of returns to factor. That means increasing returns to factor and diminishing returns to factor. Negative returns में आप नहीं जाते because if you go in negative returns, what will happen? Cost will increase. Revenue will not be there. So why will you operate in such a stage? You won't operate. So this is about the two stages, okay? Increasing returns to factor and diminishing returns to factor. This returns to factor, which is because of, आपको याद रखना है कि short-term average cost curve U-shaped क्यों होती है? It is because of returns to factor. Okay, now today we are going to talk about long term. So what we have shared till now in cost. So we have shared in cost, number one, and cost curves are U-shaped, but in case of exception, Pawan is asking for good technology, how will affect the product curve? See, if the technology, Pawan, if the technology is you use a better technology, then what will happen? You will use better technology, so the marginal product will increase. And the marginal product increases means the marginal cost will decrease. So जब भी आपकी productivity बढ़ेगी, आपकी cost respectively कम होगी, isn't it? So basically, productive means what? One person you hire, and the person who is more techno-savvy, जिसको computer operate करना आता है, and the one who knows about operating computers than others. So what will happen to that person? because of that person efficiency will be higher, और higher होगी तो एक बंदा जो less productive है, that person will be producing, let's say, 5 units of good in 1 hour, and the one who is more productive, who is more techno savvy, will be producing how many? Maybe 7, 8, 9, isn't it? So productivity, आप ज़्यादा units of good produce करेंगे as a productive person because of the technology, then what will happen? You will be selling it in the market. आपका revenue बढ़ेगा means you becoming more profitable. So that's what. So technology basically helps to reduce the cost, increases the productivity, और इसीलिए cost कम हो जाती है over the period of time. Technology enhancement. Okay. So marginal productivity बढ़ेगी. Marginal productivity will increase. Okay. Okay, Pranav. So what we had discussed is about the cost. We had discussed about the cost, different types of cost. We had shared direct cost, indirect cost. Then we had shared the cost of traceable cost, opportunity cost, step-up cost, and so many other components of cost we had shared. Then cost function we had shared. Cost function क्या होता है? कि relationship cost components, which are the factors which leads to cost factor for the firm, maybe land, maybe labor ka cost, product ka price, and so and so. Okay, product price is revenue, but the cost components are labor. What is the wage rate you have to offer to the labor? Salary you have to offer to your workers. Then training cost you incur on them. Then the technology you use, at the rate of interest what you take loan for your production process. And so these are the factors of raw material, at what price you're getting raw material, what's the cost of production process. Okay, so all those components are part of the cost function. Then we had shared short term and long term. Short term, basically, what is the core difference between the short term and the long term? जब हम बात करते हैं short term और long term की, तो सबसे major difference है short term and long term is the factor input. Factor input, one of the factor input remains fixed in the short term. And in the long term, all factors of input are variable, because you can increase, you can buy new land, you can buy new machine, you can go for new technology, you can go for new production scale, production line, and respectively, you can enter a new market. So everything becomes variable in the long term. And that is why this differentiation between fixed and variable factors gets eliminated in the long term. Okay. So long term में ये differentiation नहीं होता है fixed factors और variable factors का, because आपके पास budget arrange कर सकते हो आप, you can buy new machines, you can buy new equipments and respect. Okay, so then we had shared production function और cost का क्या relationship है. So as Pranav has asked, and I have shared in prior classes also, that production or cost का inverse relationship है. The higher the level of production, lower will be the cost component, because production कब higher होगा? जब आपकी efficiency ज़्यादा होगी. Efficiency ज़्यादा होगी means आपकी cost कम होगी, isn't it? So production and the cost works in reverse manner. So if I say that this is the marginal product, okay, so marginal product हमने देखा है, it is like this, isn't it? So it increases and then it starts decreasing and then it becomes negative. And this is about inputs. And this is marginal product. This is what we had shared, and it is because of the law of variable. It's because of the law of variable proportion. But what will happen to the cost when the marginal product is increasing? So this area, A to B, when the marginal product is increasing, marginal cost will decrease. This is A to B. Cost will decrease. When the marginal product will be maximum, marginal cost will be minimum. When marginal product starts decreasing, marginal cost starts increasing. So marginal cost will start increasing. So this marginal cost is also because of the law of variable proportion. Increasing returns to factor, diminishing returns to factor, and negative returns to factor. Increasing returns to factor and diminishing returns to factor. So this is marginal cost. और ये आपका होगा output. So दोनों का relationship opposite है, production and cost का. Higher the productivity, lower the cost. Lower the productivity, higher the cost. Okay. Then today we are going to discuss about long term. Long term में हम discuss करेंगे what is economies of scale and diseconomies of scale. What are the reasons for that? What we have been sharing till now is about returns to factor. Why हम factor कह रहे हैं, बार बार emphasize कर रहे हैं, because factor is, when we talk about factor, we are saying that one of the factors is variable and one of the factors is fixed. And what is fixed in the short term is capital is fixed and labor. इसीलिए हम इसको returns to factor कहते हैं. Because factor क्या vary हो रहा है? Labor vary होगा है with respect to the profit. But when we talk about long term, we say returns to scale. Scale basically means what? You are increasing labor and you are increasing capital. Both you are increasing because now you can afford to, isn't it? You can afford to it is in the long. So long run you can increase both labor and capital. So long run में जब आप labor and capital increase करेंगे as an entrepreneur, then will you be getting more output? Will you be getting higher returns, or will you be getting returns which are moderate, or will you be getting returns which are less than your investments which you have done? So if yes, then what can be the possible reasons for that? So that is what we will discuss today. कि अगर कोई firm अपना production process increase करता है with a period of time, labor or capital, new machines लेते हैं, they go for expansion in the business, will it be generating more revenue as compared to the production will increase as compared to the inputs or the investments done in the inputs, या उसी proportion में बढ़ेगा या उससे ज़्यादा बढ़ेगा? So वो difference आपको याद रखना है. Number one, returns to factor, returns to scale. Returns to factor is short term and returns to scale is long term. Number two, returns to factor में एक factor fixed रहता है, दूसरा factor variable होता है. And returns to scale, all the factors are variable. Okay. And then we had shared that we use in returns to factor, there are three stages: increasing returns to factor, diminishing returns to factor, and negative returns to factor. Returns to scale में three stages होती हैं, but इसमें negative नहीं होगा. इसमें क्या होगा? Increasing returns to scale, constant returns to scale, and decreasing returns to scale. So there will be three stages which we will be sharing on with respect to returns to scale. तो आज हम बात करेंगे returns to scale की. That is a concept of long term. We have already discussed about returns to factor and we have discussed about production function. Okay. So cost is little bit difficult. So आपके लिए important है कि आप इसको बहुत अच्छे से समझिए concepts को, ताकि आप कोई भी numerical हो, so that you can do that. Okay. Or there is a text-based question that also you can do. So we will be sharing today returns to scale. Okay, that's the context for today's class. Now, what exactly is long run average cost curve? अब हम जब long run की बात कर रहे हैं, तो short term में हमने क्या बात किया? Short term, we said that short term average cost curve is like U shape. Yes. Just now we had discussed, and in the prior classes we have discussed that the short term average cost curve is U shaped, and this is because of the law of variable proportion. अब long term में कैसी हूँ? Long term, interestingly, long term is also U-shaped. Long term average cost is also U-shaped. This is LAC and this is output. Now, the reason for short term average cost U-shaped and the long term average cost U-shaped is not same. Okay, it's not same. For the short term, it is because of returns to factor. We have discussed this. You know this. I'm taking it from my end that you know this short term average. Long term U-shaped क्यों? It is not because of returns to factor, it is because of returns to scale. Okay, so long term cost curve जो है वो U-shape क्यों होगा? It will be because of returns to scale. और short term U-shape क्यों होगा? It is because of the returns to factor. We have differentiated between returns to factor and returns to scale. Okay, so long term period, what happens? As I've already told you, unlike in the short term period, you have fixed factors and some are variable factors. But in the long term, everything becomes variable. Okay. So in the short term, the firm is tied with a given plant. Short term में एक definite आपके पास technology है, plant है, machinery है. Okay. So you have in the short term, what is your limitation? The given plant. On that only you have to work. But in the long term, you can go for increasing the size of the plant. Expand कर सकते हैं अपनी business. Okay, you can move from one plant to the another. You can have expansion not only within the place, but you can move from one to the other, different verticals. You can move in different verticals also. Let's say ITC. ITC is producing so many things. Tata is producing so many products. Okay, so you can expand your business. You can move from one plant to the another in the long term. Okay, and that's why when you go for long term, we call it as a planning horizon. What is planning horizon? Planning horizon is that you plan. No, you plan in the long term. You see that in short term, what are our constraints? My limitations kya hai short term? Raw material procurement is a problem. Getting raw material is a task. Then you ensure that you get the right kind of supplier of raw material ताकि आपको long term में कोई issue ना हो. And at the same time, you work on the technology front also. If you feel that technology you're using today is not so profitable, so you'll go for looking for the technology which can give you high returns in the future. So long term के लिए आप plan करते हैं over the period of time, and then you execute it. That is why it is also known as planning horizon. So you plan in short term to get the due returns in the long term, isn't it? So that's why it is known as planning horizon also. Long term के लिए हम बात करते हैं, it is also known as planning horizon. Okay. So short term firms have constraint, but long term it becomes easy. At the same time, it becomes more profitable. It helps in reducing cost also. जितना ज्यादा आप प्रोडक्शन करेंगे स्केल में, उतनी आपकी कॉस्ट कम होती जाएगी. Yes, and smaller the firm you are, higher will be your cost. So जब आप scale पे काम करते हैं, then your cost reduces. Okay, and respectively you go for producing more units of good also when you're working on scale. Okay, so long run cost curve depicts the functional relationship between output and the long run cost of production. Okay, so what is long run? Long run is a functional relationship. कितना आपका output मिल रहा है by incurring cost on production in the long term. So it establishes relationship between output and the cost of input is long run cost function. Okay. Now you look here. This is very, very important to understand. As we have shared, this is also known as plant curve, or the we say about planning horizon, or we say about that this is also learning curve. Okay, so all those envelope curve also, we call it as envelope curve also. So you look at the graph, this one. This on the left side, okay? Not only taxes, but now for cost also. Okay? So when you go for diversification, it helps to reduce your cost also. So we are sharing these two curves. One is short term, this is of short term, and different short term periods, and this is long term. Okay? Yeah, बहुत अच्छे से समझ लो, because this will help you to understand the core concept. जब आप study material में से text पढ़ेंगे, it will become very easy once you understand these two graphs very clearly. Okay, so now if you look at this left one, is short. Now in short term, you see that it has three short terms. Three short term. Term one, it is depicted by SAC 1. Term 2, depicted by SAC 2. And term 3, depicted by SAC 3. So these are three short-term average cost curve of firm, any firm, firm A, which is operating in the short term, और उस firm का ये long term का set, ये long term. So in short term, it has three terms, plants, three stages of plant. Okay, so the first stage, SSC 1. If you see SSC 1, अब आप अगर SSC 1 पे हैं आपकी firm में, so where will you like to produce? Where will you like to operate? Will you like to operate here? यहाँ पे क्यों नहीं आप ऑपरेट करेंगे? यहाँ पे आउटपुट इतना क्यों नहीं प्रोड्यूस करेंगे? नंबर वन, आउटपुट इज लेस. नंबर टू, कॉस्ट भी हाई है. सो इफ यू गो, suppose let's say this is point E. So if you go below the point E, what's happening? Your average cost is reducing and your output is increasing. So definitely L is better than E now, because at L, you are reducing your cost and you're producing more. Okay. But, and and in this case, you're on which curve? So आप कितना production करें? You will be producing output equal to OA or OB. If you go for OA, that means you are here. And then when you go for this point Q, Q is the minimum point. So at Q point of SSC1, how much is the output you can produce? You can produce output equal to OB. So the output produced is OB. And this is for the curve SSC1. Why not SSC2? अब आप देखिए SSC2 is also intersecting here. So this is SSC2. This is short-term average cost curve, SSC2, isn't it? This for term 2. Now, if you go for this curve, short-term average cost curve of SSC2, then if you produce OB and you operate at SSC2, तो आपकी cost क्या होगी? This one. H. LH will be your extra cost. Yes, LH will be extra cost because you are not operating at Q, but rather you are operating at H. So the cost will be higher and the output will be less. So आप जब SEC1 के time period में है, तो आपके लिए best option क्या है? To go for producing at OB level of output with the cost incurred as Q, L. Okay, so this is the cost incurred, and at this cost you can produce OB units. आप SEC2 पे operate नहीं करेंगे यहाँ, because if you operate at SEC2, then you will be incurring high cost. So why will you go for such kind of production जहाँ आपकी cost बढ़ रही है और output कम हो रहा है? आप हमेशा देखेंगे कि where the cost is minimum. Yes. So in the first case, SEC1, short-term average cost curve 1, where will you, what will be the level of output? Output will be OB. But you will not operate at SEC2. In term 2, this is term 2, this is term 1, and this is term 3. If you look at term 2, in this term 2, look at this SAC2. Okay, on SAC2, you can produce OC unit of good, and you can produce OC unit of good. If you produce OC unit of good as SAC2, you can, or SAC1, अगर आप OC unit of output produce करते हैं, and if you operate on SAC1, then your cost will be how much? Cost will be this, kj. Yes, the cost will be higher. So the cost incurred will be how much higher? Kj additional cost will be. But if you operate on SEC2, OC level के output के लिए अगर आप SEC2 पे operate करते हैं, then your cost will be Ck. Yes, so the cost incurred will be less than the cost incurred when you go for producing at SEC1. So हर term में आपको, you can understand in each term. Why don't we rely on point K? So we can't rely on point K because if we are talking about, yes, we will be on point K only. So when we talk about short term for SEC2. So SEC2 के लिए आपके लिए best option है to go for K point, that is CK, rather than going for J point, where you incur high cost if you go for SEC1. So in the case of term 2, on SEC2, which is the ideal level of output, so we'll go for OC. Sorry, OC level of output for SEC2. Now, if you look at OD here. Now, this at OD level of output, the firm can operate at R, and if it operates for SAC2, on SAC2, then the cost is higher. Cost is increasing, no? SAC2 cost is increasing. But if the firm operates as SAC3, then the cost is decreasing. So for OD level of output, that means for term 3, For SAC3, the firm should operate at OD level of output, and the cost will be minimized because the cost will be DR. So what is your learning through this? In short term, for this firm, there are 3 term periods. In each term period, firm has to decide that what will be the level of minimum cost to produce the specific unit of output. So firm always looks for minimizing cost and maximizing output. Whether you talk about short term or long term. But in short term, you see that each firm the firm at each level of output has to select the short-term average cost curve, which can be the most beneficial option for the firm. Yes, so this is the short-term average cost curve. I hope you understand the short-term average cost curve. Now look at B panel. B panel is long-term average cost curve. Now what will happen in the long term? आप देख रहे हैं यहाँ पे? You have so many SSCs. So यहाँ पे we have only spoken about 3 terms, but here you can see SSC1, SSC2, SSC3, SSC4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so the firm is expanding. Firm is expanding. It's not confined only to 3 terms, but has gone for expanding to the 4th term, 5th term, 6th term, and 7th term. Now, what you do here, this is the SSC1, SSC2, SSC3. Now we have to get the long term. So how will we get the long-term average cost curve? Long-term average cost curve is that you just draw the tangent. Tangent समझते हैं ना? You draw the tangent to the SSC curve minimum point. Okay, just draw the tangent. Just draw the tangent. Once you draw the tangent, you will see that you will get the complete LAC curve. So this curve, LAC, is also known as planning curve. This is also known as envelope curve. Envelope, because it envelopes all the short-term average cost curve. Yes. So in this case, how do we get the long-term average cost curve? Long-term average cost curve, actually, respective short-term average cost curve, the cumulative form of short-term average cost curve results in the long-term average cost curve. So here you see, if the firm goes for producing, in this case, SSC1, where the firm will produce somewhere here. Yes. Maybe S. Okay. So the firm produces OS and the firm will be operating here at. Now, if you go here, then the firm will be producing at which point? Firm will be producing at F for SAC2 and output will be OM. Then the firm goes for producing at H. H, that is where H is the minimum point of SAC3. So you always want to operate at the minimum point, no? Minimum point of the short-term average cost curve we have shared. This is the minimum. This is the minimum. This is the minimum. So the firm always wants to operate at minimum point. Where SAC is minimum, that's the best level of output you would like to do. Yes? So this one. So here, now this one. In this case, where you want to operate? This point. Now, if this is the next SAC, where will you like to operate? This point. This is how the output increases by taking the minimum point of short-term average cost curve. So when you join these points, what do you get? You get the long-term average cost. Okay, so long-term average cost curve, you get it from the short-term average cost curve. And this curve, SAC curves are called plant curve because plant, आप समझ रहे ना, this is SAC1 is one plant. One plant where you have specific inputs, machines and basic equipments, land, one plant. Now SAC2 is the second plant. SAC3 is the third plant. और जब ये तीनों प्लांट एक ही कंपनी के हैं, एक ही फर्म के हैं, that together becomes the long term. Yes. So each plant, like we have shared in the long term, what happens in the long term? Firm can increase, can go for new plant. Firm can enter into new plant segment. So plant, that is why it is known as plant curve. Okay. So the next thing is about long-term average cost curve. Long-term average cost curve U shape क्यों है आप समझ रहे हैं? It is because of the returns to scale. What do you mean by returns to scale? Number one, आप इसमें labor and capital both increase कर रहे हैं. If you move from plant 1 to plant 2, SSC 1 and to SSC 2, definitely you have increased your land, you have purchased new land, you have installed new machines, you have increased the number of workforce who are working for you. That is why you have reached from A to B, na? Plant, new plant में जब आप enter करेंगे, definitely you have to go for spending money, both front, labor and capital both. So you are increasing your labor and capital. The output तो definitely बढ़ेगा ही बढ़ेगा. So you can see here output is increasing. When you go for increasing labor and capital, output will increase. But what do you see here? If I say, I'll erase this so that it becomes easy for you to understand. Okay. So coming back to this LAC here, this LAC, if you look at this downfall in LAC, आप देख रहे हैं LAC continuously कम होता जा रहा है. That means it's good for the firm now. And secondly, you see that if the firm is operating here at this point, then shorter is the term or the smaller is the firm, and the smaller the firm, that means less is the output. जैसे जैसे firm का size बढ़ता जाएगा, as the firm size increases, cost goes down. This average cost goes down and output increases. So larger the firm, lower the average cost. And higher is the level of output. Yes, OQ is definitely more than OM, ON, OB, or let's say this is point R, whatever it is, OR. Okay, so this is OR is less than OM, ON, and OB. And OQ is more than OR, OM, ON, and so definitely as the cost decreases, as the level of cost decreases, output increases, because you always want to operate where the cost is minimum and output should be maximum. Okay. और ये आपको मिली कैसे? This point, how did you reach to this point OQ? This you have reached because of this short term. One plant, second plant, third plant. So one plant, second plant, third plant, fourth plant. So this is about further. So if you go here further, this is SAC 4. Now SAC 4. So what will happen? Your costs will decrease and your output will increase. जैसे जैसे आप स्केल पे काम करते जाते हैं, आपकी कॉस्ट कम होती जाती है and output increases. Okay, so this is about, and which is the optimum point here? Optimum point definitely will be OQ output. Yes. Why so? Why so OQ level of output at point P? What can be the reason for that? So the core reason for that is, number one, आपकी LAC minimum. LAC is minimum at P point. So definitely you want to operate at point P where LAC is minimum and the output is OQ. Secondly, you don't want to operate or stop at SAC 3 or SAC 2 or SAC 1. Reason being, if you stop at SAC 2 or SAC 3, then in that case, long run average cost is still decreasing. You see, it is downward sloping. So long-term average cost is decreasing. As long as long-term average cost is decreasing, our production बढ़ाते जाएंगे because you want that your average cost should be less and your output should be more. That will define your profit. So definitely as the short-term average, long-term average cost is decreasing, your output increases and your cost is decreasing. So definitely you want to go for this point where there is full capacity utilization of the firm. At OQ is the full capacity utilization of the firm. Now, right to OQ. OQ के right side में अगर आप देखें, that is OW. So what's happening in case of OW? अगर आप OW पे हैं तो then you look at right to this P point. SAC 4, sorry, SAC 5, SAC 6, SAC 7. What's happening for SAC 5, SAC 6, and SAC 7? You are producing here, you are producing definitely more. But what's happening here? OP is this PQ cost is less than this one. Yes? So that means the cost is increasing. The average cost has started increasing. As the average cost starts increasing, you are gaining more output, but at the same time, the cost is increasing. This increase in the cost factor is known as diseconomies of scale. We'll share what is diseconomies of scale, and this downfall in the average cost curve, long-term is known as economies of scale. Okay, so we will be sharing now economies of scale and diseconomies of scale. But I hope कि आप core concept समझ गए हैं कि long term average cost curve को short term average cost curve को why we say plant curve and why we call long term average cost curve as planning curve or learning curve or envelope curve. Okay, so this is आप देख रहे हैं इसमें इस कैसे इसके अराउंड कैसे एक envelope बनाया है LAC and the firm is learning at each step, each stage of output. Okay, fine. Here we have a higher cost level. We'll work for the second plan so that our cost goes down. If we have decreased the cost, is there any scope further to decrease the cost? Let's work on that. So further reducing the cost. Can we further go for reducing the cost? Yes. Up to SAC 4, we can reduce the cost. By plan 4, we can reduce the cost. We'll go for reducing. We'll go for producing out. So respectively, you produce the output. Okay. So this is short term. It is because of this curve is because of returns to factor. This is long term. It's because of the returns to scale. Returns to scale is labor is increasing and capital is increasing. The second one here, labor is increasing and capital is fixed. In plant 1. In plant 2, you increase labor and you increase capital in plant 2. As you move from plant 1 to plant 2. From plant 2 to 3, you further add labor. But if you're in plant A situation or in plant 2, then this will be the situation. Okay. So this is short-term and long-term average cost curves. Somil, SAC means short-term average cost curve. Short-term average cost curve means total cost divided by output is short-term average cost curve. Okay, SAC, short-term average cost. So what we have differentiated short-term and long-term cost curve. In the long run, a firm can vary all inputs. हम बार बार कह रहे हैं कि लॉन्ग टर्म में आप सारे इनपुट्स को वेरी कर सकते हैं. यू कैन इंक्रीज ऑल इनपुट्स, लेबर, कैपिटल, machine, technology. Okay, you can go for new land. You can enter a new market. You can go for production of new product range. Whatever it is, all factor becomes variable in the long term. Secondly, whosoever it is, you may be a big firm, you may be a small firm, you may be a micro firm, whosoever you are, you always look for least cost input. आप कॉस्ट को अपनी ऐसे कॉम्बिनेशन इनपुट का आप लेना चाहेंगे जिसमें कि आपकी कॉस्ट मिनिमम. सो यू विल ऑलवेज लुक फॉर input combination which can minimize your cost. So you always look for minimization of cost by going for such input combination. लेबर और कैपिटल आप ऐसे कॉम्बिनेशन लेंगे जिससे कि आपकी कॉस्ट मिनिमम. एंड व्हाट अबाउट आउटपुट? आउटपुट यू शुड बी एंड दैट विल डिसाइड योर आउटपुट. आपका आउटपुट किस पे डिपेंड कर, अभी हमने देखा इसमें आउटपुट किस पे डिसाइड किया, मिनिमम कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ least cost combination of inputs and output. Okay, in the short term what happens in the short term? In short term, लॉन्ग टर्म में आपने देखा सब फैक्टर्स वेरी करते हैं. नंबर टू, आप लीस्ट कॉस्ट इनपुट कॉम्बिनेशन लेते हैं बिकॉज यू कैन टेक केयर अबाउट बोथ लेबर एंड कैपिटल फॉर ईच लेवल ऑफ आउटपुट. In the short term, a firm has at least one fixed input, produces some level of output at the least cost input combination, some level of output. Okay, can vary output from that in the short run, but will have higher cost than it could achieve if all inputs were variable. So it will always operate in the short term where they can minimize the level of least cost input combination. But in this case, only labor is varying, capital is fixed. इसमें आप कॉम्बिनेशन ऐसा लेना है जिसमें कि लेबर भी कम हो और कैपिटल भी कम, and you should get best level of output. Here, only labor you have to see that minimum labor with respect to the capital, and you should get best out. Okay, so that's the difference between the short term and the long term. Long term average cost curve is lower envelope of the short term average cost curve. This we have shared. This one. This is the envelope curve. Yes, this is the envelope curve, which you get it by the short term average cost curve. So short term and long term average cost curve difference आपको समझ में आ गया. So long term is also known as I've told you, envelope curve, planning curve. Envelope curve because ये short term को cover करती है long term average cost curve. You see, these are different short term average cost curve, and this is the long term average cost curve. इस short term average cost curve पे minimum output is minimum input combination is this. They will go for this cost, which is minimum here, and output will be 40. And here what you see, further the cost is decreasing because you're working on scale. जैसे आप अपना production बढ़ाते जाएंगे, आपकी average cost कम होती जाएगी. So average cost is decreasing. But this is the optimum point. Beyond this, what's happening? Now the cost starts increasing. Yes. So if you go for 140 units of good, the cost goes up from this. Here it is minimum, no? And here the cost goes up. So that's the impact of, that is what is planning curve is all about. Okay. Now the question arises, why this LSE is like this and then like this. This is long-term average cost curve. This is output. And this is the envelope curve. And you know how did we get this envelope curve here? Okay. Now the question is that he come kyun LSE here? Why LSE is decreasing here? Why LSE is constant here? Why LSE starts increasing here? So we had shared optimum point. Optimum point is here. इसके लेफ्ट में LSE कम हो रहा है, इसके राइट में LSE increase हो रहा है. So that is why it is the optimum point. Okay, but the point is that why LSE is decreasing. What is the reason behind this? What can be the possible reason behind this? That this short-term average. Now this decrease in the short-term average cost curve, as we have shared, is known as economies of scale. Economies of scale क्या होता है? Benefits. Economies means benefits. benefits the firm enjoys when it is working on large scale. Economies. जब आप लार्ज स्केल पे प्रोडक्शन करते हैं तो आपकी एवरेज कॉस्ट कम हो जाती है. योर एवरेज कॉस्ट डिक्रीजेस and that helps you to produce more at a lower cost. So what can be the possible reasons for this downfall of LAC? It can be that firm is operating on a large scale. यहाँ पे 10 units and here they are producing 60 units. So they're working on large scale. What happens when you work on a large scale? People, those who are working in an organization, उनको पता होता है कि what work they have to do. They are very clear about it. Okay, so they they know about it, that हमारा टास्क क्या है, what work we have to do. So workers become more trained, specialized. They know each one of them, they know of their work. क्या काम, छोटी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, जितनी छोटी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन होगी उसमें उतनी प्रॉब्लम्स होंगी, उतनी चैलेंजेस होंगे. टेक्नोलॉजी विल नॉट बी अपडेटेड, पीपल विल बी वर्किंग लेस इन नंबर एंड दीज पीपल, हो सकता है दो ही लोग सारा काम कर रहे हो, or maybe few people are working. But when you expand your business, when you're working on a large scale, what happens when you work on a large scale? आप specific लोग specific job के लिए hire करते. You have people, those who are working for the specific job profile in the organization. Some people work exclusively for finance, some work for HR, some work for marketing, some work for relationship and respectively. And now what happens because of that? Each person working on different tasks, what will happen? The productivity goes up, isn't it? आपको पता है आपको क्या काम आता है, and you excel in that. And since you excel in that, what happens? The cost goes down. आपकी productivity बढ़ जाती, है, efficiency higher होने की वजह से, competency higher होने की वजह से आपकी cost कम हो जाती. And if the cost decreases, that means LAC will decrease. So LAC is decreasing because you are working on a large scale. You have people, those who are expertise in their area. They are more productive in nature. They have access to better technology and technical production. जितना आप scale पे काम करते हैं, then they can go for different combinations of inputs. They can afford. जितना large scale पे काम करते हैं उतना variation का scope होता है. When you work on a small scale, उतना आपका rigid production process होता है. But जितना आप large scale पे काम करते हैं उतना variation आप, like you see companies which are making cars. अब मारुति देखिए, मारुति started with 800, then they made Swift, अब उन्होंने ब्रीजा बनाया, उसके बाद में वो new cars which they are making, SUV cars they are making, isn't it? तो large scale पे काम करने से क्या होता है? You can go for, you have flexibility. Flexibility means आपके पास option होते हैं to diversify, to innovate your product and to go for catering to different market segments. You don't lose your market in that case. तब LAC कम होगा, isn't it? So it helps average cost to reduce. So managers को पता होता है कि किस segment में कैसे production करना है, कहाँ पे we should go for devoting more resources, कहाँ से resources कम करने हैं, कहाँ पे resources को deploy करना. So that results in more efficiency and the average cost decreases. Okay. Sometimes firm can go for outsource कर दिया कि हम raw material इनसे लेंगे, consultancy services इनसे लेंगे, and then we'll go for producing it. And when you go for outsourcing, कब कर सकते हैं आप? जब आपको पता है कि आपके पास enough funds हैं, आपको पता है, you know about the supplier, you know you can work on better pricing. So this helps you to, when you work on a large economies of scale. Okay, so benefits a firm enjoys when it is working on a large scale. अब जब फर्म लार्ज स्केल पे काम करती है तो कुछ बेनिफिट्स होते हैं जो इंटरनल होते हैं, इंटरनल विद इन द फर्म. Production can also increase by exploitation of labor in any term. Any term. Yes, production can also increase, Chaitanya, in short term. अगर आप अपने वर्कफोर्स को ट्रेन कर दें, you make them more like you give them skill acquisition से क्या होगा? They will be more productive. So definitely short term also you can increase the productivity and work on the cost front, you have to a little bit way of thinking. You have to strategize, isn't it? तो आप strategically अगर plan करेंगे तो अपनी cost कम कर सकते हैं. You can make people more productive by giving them specific training skill. अगर organization में कुछ deployment of work है, allocation of work है, वो you have given to somebody. Suppose you are a finance student and a finance person, और आपको दिया marketing का task, so you won't be able to perform now. So what is important is that they will be able to allocate the right kind of work to the right set of people. उससे भी productivity बढ़ती है, cost कम होती है. तो short term में भी labor can help in decreasing cost in term also. Okay. More than 50% of gross value comes from service sector, company which has less than people. Yes, because ना service sector में cost कम क्यों होगी? So cost will be less because आपकी fixed cost कम हो जाती है ना service sector में. So your overall cost goes down. In manufacturing industry, your fixed cost goes up. And since the fixed cost goes up, total cost बढ़ जाएगी. And total cost goes up, then it is very difficult to control that cost initially कम करने में. But when it is about service sector में fixed cost आपकी almost negligible, very less. That is why you see startups, technology driven startups बनाए हैं. उनकी cost, why they are becoming so like well in terms of valuation. इतना उनका valuation कैसे बढ़ गया? Because once you develop that technology, then आपकी cost कुछ है नहीं, where negligible cost है. And that helps you to become more profitable in the market. And obviously आपकी average cost reduce होगी जितना ज़्यादा आप scale पे operate करेंगे. Okay, now. So internal economics. So हम बात कर रहे हैं कि short term, long term average cost कम curve क्यों होती है? Why this curve is like this? LAC is going down. Okay, why this LAC is going down before it reaches here, and then it goes up. So we are talking about this, and this because of economies of scale. Economies of scale are benefits firm enjoys when it is working on the large scale. This is what we discussed. Now, there can be internal economies, there can be external economies. Internal economies means what? Within the firm. Benefits the firm enjoys within the firm. So firm gaining benefits because of leadership. Just Ratan Tata, just Narayan Murthy, Asim Premji. These are people, those who are good leaders, good managers, good CEOs. They know about कि हमको production कैसे करना है, production line हमारी कैसे होगी, what kind of like technology we should use, how should we expand our business, how should we resolve the conflict, कहाँ से हम minimum cost पे raw material लेंगे, ताकि हमारी cost should we spend on advertisement or not, if yes, to what extent. So all decisions within the firm taken which leads to lowering down the cost. जो within the firm होते हैं उसको कहते हैं internal economics of scale. Okay, so ये firm specific होते हैं. The firm decides about. जैसे आप success, Swiggy success, Zomato success is because of internal क्या है? उनकी technology, उनके app, उनका delivery system. That is all internals. External क्या है? That your mobile, people, all of us have today 4G, 5G, mobile accessibility. और अगर mobile accessibility नहीं होती, तो Zomato कैसे आप reach कर पाते? So that is external. Okay, so external factors help the entire industry. So जितनी भी apps हैं market में आज, they are all getting benefit because of the digital literacy or the mobile penetration in India. So these are external. So external factors जो होते हैं, आप which may be about industry, And because of that, the firm gets benefited. Maybe because of the government, maybe because of the other market players in the market. Okay, so any of the factors which helps, or maybe other sub-components, manufacturing. For example, car, um, uh, you are a car manufacturer, then the tire industry gets more developed. Okay, insurance sector gets more developed. Getting license becomes easy, driving license. So इससे क्या होगा? All these factors are going to lead to what? More car demand. And the car demand increases means your production will increase, you will be getting more benefit. So these are external factors. And what happens within the firm is internal. So when this LAC decreases, because the firm's internal factors, तब हम कहते हैं internal economics. When LAC decreases, because of the factors which are not firm driven, but because of the external factors, जिसकी वजह से firm को benefit मिले. So then these external factors are known as external economies of scale, helping the firm to perform better. Okay, so internal economies of scale are what? These are number one, firm specific. Okay, ये डिपेंड करता है आपकी प्रोडक्शन एफिशिएंसी क्या है, कैपेसिटी क्या है, हाउ हाउ वेल योर इंटरनल रिसोर्सेज आर परफॉर्मिंग, आर प्रोडक्टिव. देन टेक्निकल इकोनॉमी, टेक्निकली आप क्या टेक्नोलॉजी यूज कर रहे हैं, आपका कैपिटल आपने कैसे रेज किया है, उस कैपिटल से आप इंश्योर कर रहे हैं आरओआई इनफ मिले आपको. ओके, आपकी असेंबली लाइन कैसी है, प्रोडक्शन लाइन कैसी है, आपने उसको कैसे प्लान किया है. इफ यू गो फॉर डिसाइडिंग अबाउट के हम पैकेजिंग पे काम करेंगे सो दैट आवर पैकेजिंग कॉस्ट गोज डाउन बाय थ्रू R&D, or we'll work for some products, raw material which we are using in our production process, जिससे कि कुछ बाय प्रोडक्ट्स जो होंगे उसको हम रीयूज कैसे कर दें. So these are different ways through which a firm can enjoy benefits, internal economies of scale. Okay, गवर्नेंस आपका अच्छा है, आपकी लीडरशिप अच्छी है, you know what kind of products to be, which kind of products to be brought in market at which point of time, कौन से कंज्यूमर्स के लिए आपको बनाना है, उस प्रोडक्ट की डिमांड कितनी होगी मार्केट में, उसका पैकेजिंग कैसे होगा, उसको प्रमोट कैसे करेंगे. एवरीथिंग यू हैव टू प्लान फॉर दैट. Do we need to work on our employees? How do we work on our employees? Do we need to be digitally savvy with that or not? To what extent? जो भी इंटरनल फैक्टर्स होंगे जो फर्म को एवरेज कॉस्ट कम करने में हेल्प करेंगे, दैट विल बी, यू विल बी कैटेगराइजिंग एज इंटरनल इकोनॉमिक्स ऑफ स्केल. ओके, so internal economies of scale. And diseconomies क्या होगा? Diseconomies will be disadvantages. So if we say diseconomies, this is diseconomies. When LAC starts increasing, that means you are working on a large scale. And since you're working, so diseconomies basically means what? Okay. So diseconomies of scale basically means what? Diseconomies are this one. This is our LAC. This is our output. As output is increasing, long-term average cost is decreasing, and here it is minimum. This is all because of economies of scale. It can be internal, it can be external. But if I say this is point B and this is point D, so this B to D point is diseconomies of scale. Why this is B to D is diseconomies of scale. Why it is diseconomies of scale? Basically disadvantages. Disadvantages of working on large scale. When you work on a large scale, the disadvantages you incur. Okay, so disadvantages because of, sorry for this, I'm writing here. So diseconomies are disadvantages. Okay, so when we say LAC is increasing, it is because of diseconomies. And it means you are working on a large scale, which is leading to problems. And these problems are resulting in higher LAC. That's what is diseconomies of scale. Okay. So what are internal economies and diseconomies of scale? Internal economies जो कि फॉर्म स्पेसिफिक होंगी वो इंटरनल इकोनॉमीज बेनिफिट्स. इंटरनल डिसइकोनॉमीज क्या होंगी? जो फर्म स्पेसिफिक डिसएडवांटेजेस होंगे. दैट बी internal economies and diseconomies of scale. Okay, so internal economies, when we talk about, so I'll take break of 10 minutes and then we'll start with this internal economies of scale and diseconomies of scale. Okay, so we'll join after 10 minutes to take it forward. And I hope you can differentiate now internal external में difference क्या है, economies और diseconomies में difference क्या है. Yes, sir. So you understand the difference between economies and diseconomies. Okay, so internal की हम बात कर रहे हैं, that means we are talking about firm specific. Okay, so technical economies, क्या फैक्टर्स होते हैं जिसकी वजह से एलओसी कम हो सकता एलएसी कम हो सकता है? दैट कैन बी बिकॉज द टेक्निकल फैक्टर्स. टेक्निकल फैक्टर्स कैन बी लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल टेक्निक ऑफ प्रोडक्शन, व्हाट काइंड ऑफ इक्विपमेंट्स, कैपिटल, आप अपडेटेड मशीन्स यूज कर रहे हैं, टेक्नोलॉजी यूज कर रहे हैं. So what happens because of that? The productivity goes up and the cost goes down. Efficient machinery. Okay, this will help to increase the technical economies, and you will get firm will get more benefit through this. But when we talk about the firm using techniques, sophisticated technique, and then people, those who work on that machine, they do not understand. अगर आप technology, advanced technology really, and the people, those who are working on that on very large scale, you start working, then in that case, the people may not be able to get accustomed to it. And that is why the problem arises. So ho sakta hai kabhi kabhi when you work on a very large scale with sophisticated machines and technology and huge capital, that can make adverse impact. आपकी cost बढ़ सकती है उस case में, because आपके पास specialized लोग नहीं होंगे. People, those who can work on that machines and technology may not be there. The coordination may become a problem. Then उसके कुछ स्पेयर पार्ट्स हो सकते हैं वो नहीं मिलेंगे, या फिर उसकी सर्विस का इशू हो सकता है, कुछ भी हो सकता है इन द लॉन्ग टर्म, which can lead to diseconomies. So technical diseconomies and economies which can be because of the technological factors, machines, equipments, the specific technique of production which you use in a production process, which technology may become obsolete. हो सकता है कि आप एक स्टेज ऑफ प्रोडक्शन पे कर रहे हैं, उसके बाद वो टेक्नोलॉजी बिल्कुल ऑब्सोलीट हो जाए, जैसे आपने स्केल ऑफ प्रोडक्शन बढ़ा दिया. So the technology which you were using for a project that is not helping you to increase the production, हो सकता है वो टेक्नोलॉजी की वजह से आपकी कॉस्ट बढ़ जाए, because that technology is not sufficing for the scale of production which you want to increase. So that can also lead to diseconomies of scale. Managerial economies and diseconomies. When you work on a large scale, आपके पास स्पेशलाइज्ड लोग होते हैं. पीपल एस्पायर टू वर्क फॉर योर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन बिकॉज यू आर वर्किंग ऑन अ लार्ज स्केल. जितनी बड़ी कंपनी है उसमें लोग काम करना चाहते हैं. क्यों? बिकॉज उनको पता है वहां पे ग्रोथ है, अपॉर्चुनिटीज है, करियर है. सो यू गेट बेस्ट ऑफ द पीपल इन द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन when you work on a large scale, and these best of the people help you to increase your profitability, at the same time work on reducing the overall cost. So उसकी वजह से cost कम हो जाती है. But on the other front, when you work on a large scale, हो सकता है कि dispute हो, conflict of interest हो. People, those who are working in the organization, they may not get along. Unions बहुत strong बन जाए, lobby system शुरू हो जाए. People start making lobbies and then they go for fighting among themselves. That can result in conflict of interest. एक group कुछ कहेगा, दूसरा group कुछ कहेगा, views match नहीं करेंगे, and that will result in problem. The subsidiary company may want to go for something else, but the parent company says something else. So when you work on a large scale, coordination में, human workforce में problem हो सकती है, efficiency में, managerial efficiency, execution of the work can be a task that can result in problem. Okay, so these kind of problems can be there when you work on a large scale. हम जब economies की बात करेंगे, then we'll talk about all plus. When we'll talk about diseconomies, we'll talk about minus of working on a large scale. Okay. Then commercial economies and diseconomies. Commercial level पे क्या होता है? When you work on a large scale, टाटास है, कोक है, पेप्सी है, एचयूएल है, पीएनजी है, ये बिग ब्रांड्स है मार्केट में. The moment they come out with some product, उनके लिए easy हो जाता है to reach to people. We know that this is HUL product, this is Nestle product, this is PNG product. आपके लिए easy होता है to recognize and to buy that product. So they commercially they need not work so hard for this. But when you work on a very large scale, then in that case, उस product का marketing भी हो सकता है issue बन जाए. So how to reach to people? Both ways. It is both ways, no? Both ways it works. It works in favor of you. It may work against you also. So कोई जब आप large scale पे काम करते हैं, then you expect that थोड़ा सा price हम ज्यादा charge करें, because we have been working so for such a long period of time. आज हमारी एक market में image है, we can sell the product at a high price. But suddenly एक दूसरा small player market में enter करता है, very small player, and then they start selling the product to make their space by value proposition product in the market, and then you start losing. जैसे एयरटेल ने लूज किया जब मार्केट में उनका प्रोडक्टिविटी जो थी कम हो गई, एफिशिएंसी कम हो गई, कमर्शियल दे दे वर नॉट सो वायबल, इकोनॉमिकली वायबल प्लेयर इन द मार्केट। सेल्स जो स्टाफ है आपका, हो सकता है कि जो सेल्स वर्किंग फोर्स है सेल्स डिपार्टमेंट में, दे आर नॉट एबल टू जनरेट इनफ टारगेट, अचीव डेफिनेट टारगेट इन टर्म्स ऑफ सेल्स, बिकॉज इतने लार्ज स्केल पे काम कर रहे हो तो कोऑर्डिनेशन में प्रॉब्लम हो सकता है। सेल्स स्टाफ जो है वो एफिशिएंसी उनकी कम हो सकती है, वो दे मे नॉट वर्क फॉर द फुल एफिशिएंसी लेवल एंड इट विल रिजल्ट इन प्रॉब्लम। बट द अदर फ्रंट इज दैट जो अंडर परफॉर्मर्स थे, अगर उनको opportunity मिलेगी तो then they will be outshining in the market. That will be commercial economies, and the vice versa will be commercial diseconomies. Okay, then financial economies of scale and diseconomies of scale. Financial economies क्या होगी? When you work on a large scale, आपको बैंक से लोन लेना है, आपको मार्केट से फंड्स रेज करने, इट बिकम्स इजी, पीपल बिलीव इन यू कि हाँ भाई ये दे आर वेल नोन प्लेयर्स इन द मार्केट, ये डिफॉल्ट नहीं करेंगे, इनको लोन दे देंगे एट लो रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट। सो दैट्स द फाइनेंशियल इकोनॉमीज बेनिफिट्स यू एंजॉय एज अ फर्म व्हेन यू हैव योर प्लेस इन द मार्केट। नंदिनी टाटा नैनो फेल्ड, रीजन दूसरा था बेटा उसका। नैनो वाज द कार व्हिच वाज मेड फॉर पीपल, फॉर रतन टाटा ने सोचा कि जो लोग एस्पायर करते हैं कार के लिए उनके लिए कार बना दे, बट द पीपल देयर कॉस्ट वेंट अप बिकॉज उन्होंने कार लो प्राइस कार बनाई और मार्केट में व्हेन दे हैड गॉन फॉर मार्केटिंग they could not get sales for that product or cost escalate to be returns मिले नहीं। and then there was a dispute, external diseconomies थे, शुरू किया उन्होंने कैलकाटा से, और फिर उनको 80% प्रोडक्शन करने के बाद उनको स्टॉप करना पड़ा वहां से, एंड देन दे हैड टू शिफ्ट टू गुजरात, so the cost also went up but the returns they could not get it through that, so that's why they incurred loss. Okay, so fixed cost अगर कंपनी की हाई है और डिस्पाइट आपके पास एफिशिएंसी लेवल है, फिर भी आप फेलियर हो सकते हैं प्रोडक्ट स्पेसिफिक में, क्योंकि उस प्रोडक्ट के लिए हो सकता है वो प्रोडक्ट डिजाइनिंग आपका ठीक नहीं है, so people may not accept it the way you want it to reach to the people. So there are many cases which lead to बड़ी कंपनीज के भी कुछ प्रोडक्ट टोटल फेलियर हो जाते हैं। ओके, सो फाइनेंशियल इकोनॉमीज, डिसइकोनॉमीज क्या हो सकती है व्हेन यू वर्क ऑन अ वेरी लार्ज स्केल? फाइनेंशियल डिसइकोनॉमीज क्या हो सकती है? फाइनेंशियल डिसइकोनॉमीज कैन बी कि जैसे बायजूस के साथ हुआ, आपने खूब लोन ले लिया एंड वंस यू हैव टेकन लोन थिंकिंग अबाउट कि हमारा तो बिजनेस एक्सपैंड हो रहा है एंड वी विल बी एबल टू जनरेट इनफ रेवेन्यू, एंड डेट ऑब्लिगेशंस आपके बढ़ते जा रहे हैं एंड नाउ यू आर नॉट एबल टू पे बैक। अब देन यू आर कॉट इन अ डेट ट्रैप, आप फंस गए हो लोन्स में एंड यू आर नॉट एबल टू पे बैक। डिसइकोनॉमीज, फाइनेंशियल डिसइकोनॉमीज, बहुत लार्ज स्केल पे काम करने पे हो सकता है कि आपके फाइनेंशियल्स जो है आप मैच नहीं कर पा रहे हो, और उसकी वजह से आपकी आप यू मे इनकर लॉसेस और आपकी एवरेज कॉस्ट बढ़ सकती है उस केस में। इंटरेस्ट रेट्स, आपने कुछ मशीन्स एंड इक्विपमेंट्स आपने कहीं इंटरनेशनल मार्केट में एक्सपैंड कर लिया, उसके लिए आपको ह्यूज कैपिटल चाहिए, एंड टू रेज दैट कैपिटल यू विल बी पेइंग हाई इंटरेस्ट रेट्स, ऑब्वियसली फाइनेंशियल डिसइकोनॉमीज होगी, बिकॉज आपने एक तो इन्वेस्टमेंट्स यूज कर लिए, ऊपर से आपका इंटरेस्ट रेट कॉस्ट बढ़ गया है, एंड थर्डली रिटर्न्स मिलेंगे नहीं मिलेंगे गॉड नोस इन फ्यूचर, सो रिस्क तो है ही डेफिनेटली, सो दैट मे लीड टू डिसइकोनॉमीज। रिस्क बेयरिंग इकोनॉमीज एंड डिसइकोनॉमीज, रिस्क बेयरिंग इकोनॉमीज एंड डिसइकोनॉमीज, कुछ कंपनीज ऐसी होती है जैसे मार्केट में म्यूचुअल फंड इंडस्ट्री है, ब्रोकरेज फर्म्स है, इंश्योरेंस कंपनीज है, they core survive on taking risk। अब जितना ज्यादा वो रिस्क ले सकते हैं उतना उनको बेनिफिट मिल सकता है, दैट इज रिस्क बेयरिंग इकोनॉमीज, वेर यू टेक रिस्क एंड you perform better because things which you predict in the market works for you। सो अगर आप मार्केट में रिस्क लेके आते हैं और आपको पता है कि और मार्केट आपके फेवर में चला जाता है, सो देन इट इज रिस्क बेयरिंग इकोनॉमीज विच यू एंजॉय। बट your your calculation fails and then in that case it can lead to diseconomies। आपने रिस्क लिया, सोचा कि ये सक्सेसफुल होगा, और लॉन्ग टर्म में उसकी वजह से क्या हो गया, डाइवर्सिफिकेशन आपने कर दिया और एक सेगमेंट में आप एंटर हो गए, एंड देन इट लीड्स टू लॉस फॉर यू, बिकॉज आपने तो रिस्क लिया था कि एक्सेप्टेंस होगा मार्केट में, but it was not accepted and that led to diseconomies. So risk bearing, diseconomy. The firm, when it is working on a large scale, it gets benefits because of that, which helps to reduce its cost, and it has its own minus also, which can result to increase in the cost factor. कभी कभी लेबर यूनियन इतने स्ट्रांग हो जाते हैं, they lead to strikes, lockouts. They expect that salary should increase. Some people, they work in organizations where they feel that we are getting paid and our job is secure. They don't work. So जब large scale पे काम करते हैं तो problems हो ही जाती हैं. That is diseconomies of scale. Okay. Now what we have shared is about internal. External can also be, external factors can also be there. External economies and diseconomies, जैसे हमने बात की, not firm specific but because of external factors. मार्केट आपके फेवर में काम कर रहा है, लोगों के पास मोबाइल है, they can have, they can know more about the products, that becomes easy for you to reach to people, and so many other factors. So external factors, गवर्नमेंट आपको सपोर्ट कर रही है, जैसे सोलर पैनल्स है, सोलर पैनल इंडस्ट्री में जो प्रोडक्शन कर रहे हैं, स्केल पे प्रोडक्शन, कोल माइंस है, government is supporting, textile industry है, government is supporting. So what becomes easy for you for the from the external front to perform better. Subsidies हैं. So अगर government ने tariffs लगा दिए, taxes लगा दिए, then diseconomies, ban लगा दिया आपके product पर, so then this diseconomies, external factors. Technology जो है वो market में सो वेल एक्सेप्टेड नहीं है, जो टेक्नोलॉजी, नई टेक्नोलॉजी आ गई है, सो उसकी वजह से जो मार्केट में नए प्लेयर्स, सो एक्सटर्नल आर इंडस्ट्री बेस्ड. इंडस्ट्री अगर आउट परफॉर्म करेगी, ऑटोमोबाइल जैसे आप देखिए, ऑटोमोबाइल इज डूइंग वेल, रियल एस्टेट इज डूइंग वेल. रियल एस्टेट सेक्टर इज अ कंप्लीट इंडस्ट्री. अगर वो अच्छा कर रहा है तो सीमेंट इंडस्ट्री भी अच्छा करेगी, उसकी वजह से सीमेंट सेक्टर अच्छा करेगा, इजंट इट? सो उसकी वजह से बाकी फैक्टर, लाइट्स है, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी है घर में, वो सेगमेंट भी अच्छा परफॉर्म करेगा, बिकॉज ऑब्वियसली घर बन रहे हैं तो लोगों के पास बेसिक एमिनिटीज उनको चाहिए, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी चाहिए, देन दे वांट एसीज एंड अदर्स, सो उसका सेल्स बढ़ जाएगा. एक्सटर्नल फैक्टर्स जो फर्म्स को हेल्प करेंगे. डिसइकोनॉमीज कैन बी, people are switching over to health drinks. So because of health drinks, जो companies fizz drinks बनाती हैं, aerated drinks बनाती हैं, they will be losing in the market. External factors. उनके प्रोडक्ट में as such इतना कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, but people have become health conscious and they have switched over. So external factors leading to diseconomies of scale. Okay. So external economies and diseconomies के क्या factors हो सकते हैं? External factors are outside the firm, number one. Number two, it affects, it's because of the entire industry. इंडस्ट्री, अगर इंडस्ट्री आउटशाइन करेगी तो आपकी फर्म भी अच्छा कर लेगी मार्केट. अगर इंडस्ट्री का डाउनफॉल है, आईटी सेक्टर, इफ इट इज एट बूम, देन ऑल majority of IT firms will do well agar they are competent enough, isn't it? Like you see EdTech world was doing so well during COVID. External economies of scale. Okay, so there can be positive external economies and negative factors. Negative will be diseconomies and positive will be economies. So positive factors can be that overall skill, जैसे गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया स्किल ट्रेनिंग को प्रमोट कर रही है, स्किल एक्विजिशन को प्रमोट कर रही है, एजुकेशन में स्किल को प्रमोट कर रही है. सो व्हाट विल हैपन, दोज इंडस्ट्रीज which require more skilled people, उनको बेनिफिट मिल जाएगा, they'll have more skilled people in the organization. ओके, अगर लॉजिस्टिक्स अच्छा है, सप्लाई चेन अच्छा है, पोर्ट्स अच्छे हैं, so then that case transportation costs will decrease. This will be external economies of scale firms will be enjoyed. Okay, some companies which are producing products which are not so environment friendly, government puts high taxes on them. That will be diseconomies of scale for them. External factors affecting them. Those companies which are manufacturing crackers, government of India has banned those crackers, so they will be losing because of that. So diseconomies of scale to them. Okay, because of the external factors. When whole lot of companies they start producing एक सेगमेंट पे, तो हो सकता है रॉ मटेरियल की शॉर्टेज हो जाए, क्योंकि सभी फर्म्स को वो रॉ मटेरियल चाहिए. सो देन इन दैट केस it can lead to shortage and the prices will increase of raw material. External diseconomies of scale. Okay, now what we have shared is all about production, scale, cost. I thought about to share some numericals with you from your study material. ताकि आप समझ सको कि न्यूमेरिकल्स को कैसे आपको एड्रेस करना, हाउ टू एड्रेस सच क्वेश्चंस, ताकि आप कंफ्यूज न हो एंड यू कैन गो फॉर मार्किंग द राइट आंसर. See, we have shared cost. We have shared cost, the complete chapter of cost we have shared. We started with cost analysis. Cost का importance क्या है किसी भी फॉर्म के लिए. Then we had shared that different components of cost क्या, different cost components क्या है. Then we had shared types of cost, different types of cost we had shared. Then we had shared short-term cost और long-term cost में क्या difference है. Then we had shared fixed cost or variable cost में क्या difference है. What is the difference between fixed cost and variable? Then we had shared average cost and marginal cost में difference क्या है. Average variable cost and average fixed cost में difference क्या है. Why the shape of average fixed cost is downward sloping. Why the shape of SAC is short-term average cost is U-shaped. Then we had shared that returns to factor क्या होते हैं वो हमने production में share किया, isn't it? Then today we had shared about returns to scale. Long-term average cost की हमने बात की, हमने short-term average cost में plant size की बात की. Then we spoke about that long-term average cost curve, why it is known as planning curve and envelope curve. Then we had shared about कि अगर long-term average cost curve U-shaped है तो क्यों है, उसके reasons क्या है, increasing returns to scale, constant returns to scale, and और एक चीज और जो आपकी study material में किया है. LAC normally for nowadays firms, major firms are having L-shaped LAC. So this is what is given in your, before we talk about numericals. So this LAC, L-shaped LAC means what? This is economies of scale, no? Economies of scale. So firms started working and they started working on specialization हो गया उनका, production process उनका improve हो गया, efficiency बढ़ गई, internal external factors की वजह से, and their cost went down, average cost went down. And once they reached to point E, after that, they could sustain at same constant, increasing the cost at a constant rate. So the cost was increasing because output बढ़ रहा है तो cost तो बढ़ेगी ही बढ़ेगी, but the cost was increasing at a constant rate. So this is, the cost is increasing at a decreasing rate. The cost decrease, the cost कम होगी, the cost will increase but at decreasing rate. So what will, at constant rate. So what will happen here? So this stage will be for a longer period of time. How it can be for a longer period of time? अब आपने एक स्पेशलाइजेशन अचीव कर लिया है अपनी प्रोडक्शन प्रोसेस. So once you achieve that specialization in your production process, तब आपकी जो ग्रोथ है, एवरेज कॉस्ट है, वो कांस्टेंट रेट पे बढ़ेगी, बिकॉज अब आपको कुछ काम नहीं करना है. यू हैव ऑलरेडी इनोवेटेड, यू हैव वर्कड ऑन योर स्पेशलाइजेशन एंड यू हैव नाउ गॉट कॉम्पिटेंस. अब आपका उसमें स्पेशलाइजेशन हो गया है. So obviously you will be working on constant returns to scale. So majority of the firms in today's context are working on this L-shaped because उन्होंने एक specific competency achieve कर लिया और ये यहाँ पे काम कर रही है. ये cost को बढ़ने नहीं दे रही है because they constantly innovate. यहाँ पे इनोवेट करके, डाइवर्सिफाई करके, इसको यहीं पे ये एक्सटेंड करते जा रहे हैं बिफोर इट गोज अप. ओके, सो दिस इज एल शेप्ड LAC. And the significance of that. Okay, so this is what is given in your book, study material. Okay, good, good. प्रणव ने कैलकुलेशन कर भी लिया, वेरी गुड. सो इफ यू लुक एट दिस टोटल फिक्स कॉस्ट, आप यहाँ पे आपको टोटल कॉस्ट दी हुई है and you understand that the total fixed cost will be how much at zero level of output, because यहाँ पे production नहीं हो रहा है, फिर भी cost है. So this cost will be fixed cost. So total fixed cost कितनी होगी आपकी 240. Okay. Now ये पूछ रहे हैं average fixed cost of 2 units of output. So आपको पता है total fixed cost 240 है, divided by 2, that will be how much? 120. So first का आंसर हो गया 120, because total, पहले आपको देखना है total fixed cost कितनी है. Then you know average fixed cost formula. Average fixed cost is total fixed cost by output. यहाँ पे आउटपुट कितना दिया है, टोटल फिक्स कॉस्ट आपको पता है, टोटल फिक्स कॉस्ट इज 240, आउटपुट आपको दिया है 2, सो दैट विल बिकम 120. सो आपका फर्स्ट आंसर हो गया 120. सेकेंड इज द मार्जिनल कॉस्ट ऑफ 6 यूनिट ऑफ आउटपुट. मार्जिनल कॉस्ट ऑफ 6 यूनिट ऑफ, अब ये है 6 यूनिट ऑफ आउटपुट. मार्जिनल कॉस्ट क्या होता है? चेंज इन टोटल वेरिएबल कॉस्ट विद एन एडिशनल यूनिट ऑफ गुड प्रोड्यूस्ड. ओके, सो इसमें टोटल वेरिएबल कॉस्ट कितनी हो गई? 90 minus 10 is 80. Okay, and this is what? This is divided by 1. How do we calculate marginal cost? Marginal cost is change in total variable cost with an additional unit of good produced. So change in total from 5 to 6 is 690 minus 610, that is 80, divided by 1. So this will be how much? Marginal cost will be 8. Okay. Then next is diminishing marginal returns starts to occur between units. Diminishing marginal returns के लिए आपको marginal returns देखना पड़ेगा इसमें. Marginal returns, you see here 410. 410 minus 330 is how much? 90, no? So this is about this is 80 or 70. What is it? Is 80. Okay, and this one is 70. And this one is 540 minus 480 is how much? So it is continuously decreasing. It is decreasing, no? So this starts from which point? It starts from here. 2 to 3. 2 to 3 it is decreasing. Isn't it? It starts decreasing from 2 to 3. So you'll say diminishing marginal return starts from 2 to 3. So this will be your answer. Okay. So जब तक आप कॉन्सेप्ट नहीं समझेंगे, from 2 to 3, 2 to 3 or 3 to 4. So how much is from 2 to 3? 330, 410 minus 330. Then you deduct 480 minus 410. So which is greater? 2 to 3 is greater or 1 to 2 is greater? 1 to 2 is greater and then 2 to 3 starts decreasing, no? So this is how you will calculate diminishing returns to factor. Okay. Then this is about this another question, a series of questions which are given. Now, average total cost, firm's average total cost is 300 at 5 units of output and 320 at 6 units of output. The marginal cost of producing will be how much? Marginal cost change ho gaya unit 1 to 5 to 6. So addition is of 1 unit. And the change in average total cost is 320 minus 300. So by 1, so that means 20 is the correct answer. So the marginal cost will be 20 of the 6 unit because this is increasing from 5 to 6. So change in output is by 1 unit. And change in average total cost is from 320 to 300 is 20. So this will be the marginal cost. Second question, a firm producing 7 units of output has an average total cost of 150 and has to pay 350 to its fixed factors of production. Okay? It has to pay 350 whether it produces or not. Number one. अगर उसकी average total cost 150 है and 350 fixed factors है, cost है, fixed cost. Fixed. Then what is happening here? Fixed cost higher है ना? And the total cost is less. So it is fixed cost. Should you produce? जब fixed cost आपकी इतनी बढ़ जाएगी, that means it is not profitable for you now. So you have to work on the fixed cost. So in this case, you will not produce. How much of the average total cost is made up of variable? So you will not produce because the fixed cost is higher. Then how much of the average total cost is made of variable cost? इसमें से आप क्या माइनस करेंगे, 150 माइनस करेंगे, 350 में से 150, दैट इज 200. So 200 will be the variable cost which will be there, because total cost 150 and 350 आपकी fixed cost है. क्या basically minus होना चाहिए, minus 200 will be the cost which will be incurred in this case. Okay, because this is minus 350, no, so आपकी total cost is 150 and the fixed cost is 350. That's why you will not produce. Then a firm has a variable cost of 1000 at 5 units of output and the fixed cost of are 400. What will be the average total cost at 5 units of output? So आपको निकालना है average total cost. Okay, so they have given fixed cost 400 and variable cost 1000. So average total cost will be how much? Average fixed cost plus average variable cost. So average fixed cost is how much? Sorry, total fixed cost. Total cost. Total cost is how much? Total fixed cost plus total variable cost. Total fixed cost is how much? 400. And total variable cost is how much? 1000. So the total cost is equal to 1400. And the average variable cost will be, average total cost will be how much? Divided by 1400 divided by 5. So that means this will be how much? 5 2s are 10 and 5 8s are 40. 280. That will be the answer for the variable cost components of average variable cost. Okay. $280. Good, Pranav. Good. So this is about 280. Okay. So I hope you understand. आप इसीलिए अगर आप ये questions मैंने आपसे इसलिए share किया तो it is given in your course study material. Reason being, अगर आपको concept समझ में आ गया कि fixed cost क्या है, variable cost क्या है, then any numerical, any question, any objective you can solve. अगर आप concept clarity नहीं है, then how will you solve? जैसे लास्ट क्वेश्चन में आपने देखा कि द मोमेंट यू सी द टेबल यू शुड बी एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड ये फिक्स कॉस्ट है 240 क्योंकि जीरो लेवल ऑफ आउटपुट पे. सो दिस इज हाउ. अब मार्जिनल कॉस्ट क्या होती है? मार्जिनल कॉस्ट अगर आपको वो पूछ रहे हैं 6 यूनिट की, दे आर नॉट आस्किंग यू फॉर द फर्स्ट यूनिट, देन दे आर आस्किंग यू डिमिनिशिंग मार्जिनल रिटर्न्स. डिमिनिशिंग मार्जिनल रिटर्न्स मींस व्हाट? Diminishing marginal returns means what? The marginal cost should start increasing, no? If the marginal cost will increase, that means it is diminishing returns. अगर marginal cost कम हो रही है, that means it is, if the marginal cost starts decreasing, marginal cost is decreasing, that means marginal productivity is increasing. जब marginal cost बढ़ रही है, then it is diminishing returns. Okay, so this is how you calculate the marginal product and marginal cost and returns. So important है आपके लिए to, like I can see Pranav, I didn't get Neil what you're asking. Maybe you're saying that recorded classes accessibility is not there. You may ask Board of Studies, they'll help you to resolve this. Okay, so what we have covered till now. See, आपसे बार बार कह रहे हैं कि आप हर एक चैप्टर को कोरिलेट करो. Start correlating each and every chapter. Reason being, all these chapters are interrelated. One is about production and supply. ये दोनों hand in hand चलते, hand in hand. Because demand and supply goes hand in hand. अगर demand है तो supply होगी. अगर demand नहीं है तो supply नहीं होगी. Isn't it? उसी तरह से production and cost goes hand in hand. When we talk about production, अगर production होगा तो cost incur होगी. So that is why these two chapters, production and cost, goes hand in hand, and demand and supply goes hand in hand. अगर ये आप चारों चैप्टर्स अच्छे से समझ जाएंगे, बेसिक्स, देन वंस वील स्टार्ट टॉकिंग अबाउट मार्केट, आपके लिए चीजें बहुत आसान हो जाएगी. सो प्लीज डू ब्रश अप द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ कॉस्ट, डू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट इज the difference between the cost components. Okay, so now we are talking about the what we have discussed till now, so that once you start revising, you can just recap what all concepts we have discussed till now. Okay, so हमने short term में क्या बात की? Short term में हमने बात की कि there are two categories of cost in the short term: fixed cost and variable cost, or fixed cost is also known as constant cost. This cost is not a function of output. अभी आपने देखा उसमें zero output था और cost थी. That means it is not a function of output. These costs are inseparable or uncontrollable. एक बार आपने land ले लिया, then in that case उस पे आप प्रोडक्शन शुरू कर दोगे, तो उस लैंड को आप अलग नहीं कर सकते इस प्रोडक्शन में से, isn't it? So it is inescapable and it is uncontrollable. You cannot avoid this and you cannot escape. Then variable cost. Variable cost is what? Variable cost is a function of production, is the function of output. Zero output, zero variable cost. As you increase output, variable cost starts increasing. Okay, so that's variable cost and fixed cost. Then you have short term. In short term, what we have said, that in short term, you can increase output or output may decrease. In short term, output may increase or output may decrease because of the change in the variable factor, maybe labor, maybe raw material, etc. But definitely not capital, not technology, not land. Okay, so those factors remain fixed. So short term, output may increase, output may decrease. याद रखिए, शॉर्ट टर्म में आउटपुट इंक्रीज भी हो सकता है, कम भी हो सकता है, बट लॉन्ग टर्म में आउटपुट विल ऑलवेज इंक्रीज. Do keep it in mind. Okay, long term period is a time period long term. What is long term? Long term is fixed for all firms? No. Long term varies from firm to firm. What is the parameter of long term? Long term means you have to have, in long term, all the factors are variable. All factors are variable. Some firm short term period may be 6 months. Some firms short term period may be 1 year. Some firm short term may be 10 years. Reason being, इसमें उनके कुछ limitations हैं. They cannot increase one of the fixed factors. Okay, but in the long term, all factors become variable in the long. Semi-variable cost. Semi-variable cost is what? It is not, semi-variable cost is not completely variable cost and it is not completely fixed cost. It has a combination of both. So it's a mixed cost. It's a mixed cost of fixed cost and variable cost. That is a semi-variable cost. So it's neither perfectly variable cost nor fixed cost. So it will have two components, fixed and variable, both together. Okay, so you'll start with the fixed cost and then you will have some variable cost which will increase over the period of time. Okay, so we have shared, no, this we had shared, and if we go from here, then this becomes semi-variable. Because ये zero से start नहीं हो रही है. This cost is not starting from zero, it is starting from the fixed cost. That is why it is the semi-variable cost component. Okay, then stair step of cost. Stair step of cost we had shared. Stair step of cost. Constant cost and sudden increase in the cost. Constant cost and sudden increase in the cost. constant cost and sudden increase in the cost. So this is the stair step of cost, remains fixed over a certain range of output and then suddenly jumps. Because all of a sudden, agar production आपने बढ़ा दिया, so it goes up, okay, beyond a point. Total cost of business is defined. What is total cost? Total cost of business is the actual cost, which is explicit cost and implicit cost. Then average fixed cost. Average fixed cost, shape of the average fixed cost is downward sloping. केवल एवरेज फिक्स कॉस्ट है जो डाउनवर्ड स्लोप होती है शॉर्ट टर्म, बाकी सारी कॉस्ट यू शेप्ड है. शॉर्ट टर्म एवरेज कॉस्ट कर्व, short term average variable cost curve are both are U shape. Marginal cost curve is U shape, but average fixed cost is downward sloping. Why? Because total fixed cost remains constant, and as you increase output, average fixed cost starts decreasing. Okay, so that's average fixed cost. And average variable cost, you know, average variable cost, how do you get average variable cost? Total variable cost by output. Or you can also get average variable cost by, if ATC is given minus AFC, will also give average variable cost. Okay, you can also find out this. Then short term and the long term cost curves. Average total cost. Average total cost is what? Average total cost is average fixed cost plus average variable cost. And this total cost and variable cost, if you make it graphically, then sorry. So if you make average, this is average total cost. This is average variable cost. This is marginal cost. And if you make AFC, AFC will be like this. Downward sloping. So you can see all ATC, ABC, MC are all U-shaped curves. Only AFC is downward sloping. Okay. So marginal cost curve, marginal cost is the addition to the total cost. What is marginal? Marginal cost is, it is sum of, or the sum of marginal cost is total variable cost, or marginal cost is change in total variable cost with additional unit of good produced. That's marginal cost. Long run cost curve. In the long run cost of production, we always go for least possible cost of producing. That is why we get this curve. And in this curve, we have all short-term average cost curves of the plant over a different period of time. 3 period of time. And you can see here the cost is decreasing, and then the cost becomes minimum, and then it starts increasing. So this is long-term average cost curve. And this is output. Functional relationship between output and the long run average curve is also called planning curve. Why it is called planning curve? Because these are short-term plans which results in long-term planning to minimize the cost and produce more. And the second factor which we have shared is that higher the level of output or larger the firm, more the output, lower the cost. Smaller the firm, lower the level of output, higher the cost. So LSE is not tangent to the minimum points of SEC curves. If you look at this one, at this point here, this is the tangent point. Ideally, it should be here, no? So this is tangent to the minimum point of SEC curve. Here it is tangent. Here it is tangent. Here it is tangent. And here it is tangent. And these are different SEC curves. Okay. So technology, I have already shared L-shaped. L-shaped cost curve. So LAC, what we have shared is this one. And in this A to B is economies of scale or increasing returns to scale. Increasing returns to scale is because of internal and external economies of scale. Constant returns to scale. Firm is producing at optimum level. And C to D is diseconomies of scale. And this diseconomies of scale can be internal or external. Diseconomies of scale. It can be because of the external factors or it can be because of the internal factors. So this is about diseconomies of scale. And L-shaped. Most of the firms today are working on this L-shaped cost curve. That means this is LAC. When they start production, the cost is high. Once they start excelling in the production process because of technical efficiency, technical economies, managerial economies, commercial economies, then your financial economies, risk-bearing economies, that results in lowering down the cost. Internal factors, external because of the industry factors, because of the government policies, because of the technology, because of the labor force. Okay, so because of that, the cost goes down. Now, once firm reaches from A to B, then firm extend the term of B to C for a longer period of time by achieving efficiency. Efficiency in production process, in distribution, in coordination, logistics, marketing, financials, commercial. And stay here for innovations. Research and development. And then stay here for the longer period of time. So this has become important days for a considering diversification. It's long term, no? You can diversify. You can expand your business in other segments, or you can go for entering into other markets. You can go for joining with the two players and then expand. Just say um, Reliance has done. Reliance is working here. Like Zodio is here, working here. Okay. So the companies, they working towards reducing their cost from. Majority of the firms are always striving for maintaining the constant returns to scale. आपकी cost तो बढ़ रही है, but at constant rate बढ़ रही है. That means this is the most optimum level of production. You can see here, average cost is less and your production is increasing from 20 units to 100 units and so on. But the moment it starts increasing, then what will happen? The cost will go up and the output you will be producing will be less. So companies are working here, L-shaped, okay? L-shaped cost curve. Then economies of scale are two types. We have shared external economies and internal. External economies, one is firm specific and one is industry specific, or maybe macro factors, or maybe international factors, which benefits firm. These are all external and firm specific. Maybe the product they have is unique. Maybe people, those who work in the organization, are skilled. Maybe the technology they are using is unique. Maybe the leader of the organization knows about coordination. Maybe the advertisement campaign which they have launched is unique, which makes them to, maybe they have worked on their packaging. Maybe they have worked on their customer service relationship management. Any factor which is firm specific, which gives benefits to the firm, is economies of scale. Diseconomies of scale can be diseconomies of scale because of the firm working, that what happened to technology, in a specific technology you're working, and this technology becomes obsolete and you are reluctant to change. आपको पता है कि technology obsolete हो जाएगी. जैसे Nokia was such a good product in the market, but it lost the market share. BlackBerry है, Nokia है, ये जो players हैं market में, वो क्यों नहीं sustain कर पाए? Product was very good, but they could not sustain because internal and external. Internal reason being that हमारा product best है, we will not work on changing it. Consumers, they enjoy our product and we need not worry about it. Internal diseconomies. External diseconomies was what? Market में आ गए smartphones. And they didn't work on that. That's why they started losing. So external factor, industry changed. Industry got totally transformed of mobiles. And Nokia could not match up with that and it lost its market. And cost को क्या होगा उस case में? Cost, obviously, where will you be in cost in that case? Nokia cost went up. And they could not sustain. So this is cost, what we have shared, is the most important aspect. आप फ्यूचर चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स हैं, आप किसी भी फॉर्म में काम करेंगे, अपनी सर्विसेज रेंडर करेंगे, most important is cost. Companies, those who work on cost, they become more sustainable. And to work on the cost front is very important to understand cost verticals, cost analysis, how to mitigate the risk of the cost escalation. Why companies today are more concerned about कि हम शॉर्ट टर्म कॉस्ट अपनी कम कर ले. अगर कंपनीज अपनी शॉर्ट टर्म कॉस्ट पे काम करेंगी तो डेफिनेटली व्हाट विल हैपन, they will be reducing their long term average cost also, because we have seen that the long term average cost कुछ नहीं होता है, that is a culmination of short term average cost curve. जैसे जैसे आप शॉर्ट टर्म में स्ट्रेटेजाइज करते जाते हैं वो आपकी लॉन्ग टर्म कर्व बनती जाती है. That is why it is known as planning curve. So if you plan successively in a manner which can help you to reduce the cost, आप definitely L-shaped curve में आ जाएंगे for a longer period of time and you will stay there for a longer period of time. That's it for today's class. Keep reading and keep learning and read your study material thoroughly. Okay, so this will be a great help to all of you. Okay, sir. So, हाँ हाँ, सशी. Okay, thanks.
मैम डाउट पूछ सकते हैं अभी एक?
हाँ हाँ.
मैम इस चैप्टर से नहीं मैम, आगे वाले चैप्टर से, बिजनेस साइकिल से रिलेटेड है, पूछ सकता हूँ?
अभी शुरू करेंगे तब डिस्कस करेंगे.
ओके। और मैम मुझे पूछना था, जैसे मैं सिर्फ बुक से रीड रीड कर करके पढ़ रहा हूँ तो चलेगा ना, या फिर मेरे को क्लासेस अटेंड करनी जरूरी है? क्योंकि मुझे लगता है मतलब थोड़ी सी स्पीड स्लो हो जाती है, क्योंकि बाकी चीजों के लिए फिर मेरे को पढ़ने का टाइम नहीं मिलता है।
क्लासेस अटेंड करने से फायदा ये होगा, जब आप बुक से पढ़ना शुरू करोगे तो आपके लिए चीजें आसान हो जाएंगी. अगर आप बुक से पढ़ोगे तो एक चैप्टर को आपको 4 बार पढ़ना पड़ेगा. अगर एक बार क्लास अटेंड कर ली तो उस केस में आपके लिए इजी हो जाएगा, आप जब आप चैप्टर पढ़ोगे.
ओके। ऐसा तो नहीं है ना कि मतलब लाइव क्लासेस में कुछ ज्यादा एक्स्ट्रा पढ़ा दे रहे हैं, या फिर कुछ न्यू और मिलना है, बुक से ज्यादा न्यू मिल रहा है मतलब पढ़ने के लिए?
हाँ, बुक से मतलब बुक का तो कोर होता ही है, बट उसके अलावा कुछ एडिशनल इन्फॉर्मेशन होती है ताकि आपके लिए चीजें आसान हो जाए समझना.
ओके मैम।
एंड बिकॉज अगर आप क्वेश्चंस कुछ एप्लीकेशन बेस्ड आ गए तो फिर यू कैन इजीली अंडरस्टैंड दैट ना.
ओके ओके।